Gold and silver at war. I've got three things we need to consider going forward, one of which nobody's talking about. Let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome to Ron's Basement. Thank you for being here today in the basement with me. I'm glad you're here. One thing I know about the people that watch my videos, I've analyzed all the comments and the analytics. You are, number one, very intelligent, and number two, generally speaking, the vast majority of us are really good, nice people. So we don't like war. That's point number one, and I'm going to get through that quickly, okay? We don't like war. We don't want to profit from war, but nonetheless, it's just the reality. We didn't start it. We didn't create it. It's the reality of what's going on, and it is generally good for the price of precious metals. So point number one being that war is good for gold and silver because of the uncertainty, the inherent uncertainty that it breeds. Point number two is we have a new world financial order emerging. One that is not so dependent on the US dollar, one that involves more of the Eastern countries, Russia, China, India, Brazil, although they're more of a southern country relative to us, but nonetheless, these countries are starting to work together and start what I would call a new world financial order. They've been setting up new arrangements for paying for natural resources, and everything is being based on hard assets, real money. Things like gold, oil, okay? So we have a new emerging structure within the financial system which will be supportive for silver and gold and, for that matter, all real assets. This realignment of financial structure and power is something that's real and something that's going on right now. If you live in the West, it's not front page news because it's not good for the West. But it's happening, and we better be ready for it. Heck, I just saw the other day that they're not letting some Russian tennis star play in Wimbledon because he's a Russian. I mean, the world is splintering and separating and going through a major period of change right now. And when people don't trust each other, that's bad for fiat currencies because they're based on nothing but trust. Whereas in the past, we've had countries with things like the gold standard, where currencies were based on gold. Current currencies are based on trust. And when trust erodes, like it is right now, that's good for our friends, silver and gold, real assets. Hey, before I get to my final point that nobody's talking about, if you could like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it, that would be great. I'd really appreciate it. And finally, this, and nobody's talking about this. What about the prospect of the Western countries using gold as a weapon against Russia? We know that Russia has really huge gold reserves in their central bank. They've had a lot of their foreign reserves confiscated by the foreign Western governments. And now they're relying more on their gold reserves and wanting to sell oil for gold, gas for gold, that type of thing. It's not good news. I mean, it's not something I'm really excited about, but what if the Western leaders decide to use gold as a weapon, suppressing the price against the Russians? We know there's all these theories out there over the last 10, 20, 50 years about how the Western central banks worked in coordination to manipulate the price of gold. What would keep them from doing that right now? I hope that doesn't happen. But it's something that came to mind, and I've heard nobody talking about, nobody analyzing. What if that were to happen? Now, I do think that if the price of gold were driven down artificially, let's say to 1,400 per ounce, right, that the Chinese and the Indians and a lot of the central banks throughout the world, that maybe the Brazilians, there's a lot of countries that aren't necessarily wholly aligned with the West, that they would dive in and say, hey, we'll buy all that we can get for $1,400 per ounce. So I don't know if on a paper derivative level, how long and how effective they could be at keeping the price of gold and silver down, although they've been pretty effective at it over the last 50 years. Just something that came to mind. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that matter. Hey, again, I'm glad you're here. You're always welcome in the basement. If you'd like to subscribe, you can do that right here. And until next time, I hope you do well.